This is a world I love living in. For as much as I can over the last 18 years, I love playing in tune with other pitch sounds around me. There's a round, wholesome sound that's the subject of this FluteCast, playing in tune, and we're going to look at it with the help of two backing tracks. We're going to use a Shruti backing track and that piano backing track called Two Descending. And we have both of these tracks. Actually, I think there's 8 tracks now, 8 songs that we have in a new Jam Tracks and Old Keys album out on Bandcamp. And so you can go to clintgoss.bandcamp.com and stream for free the backing tracks for this FluteCast and a bunch of other backing tracks. Any key you want, pick the key of the flute that you have and stream it. And if you'd like, for a small donation, you can download that MP3 and have it at home. So we're going to use 2 backing tracks, but first we're going to begin with an exercise without any backing tracks. And there's a very simple exercise. Pick up your flute, hold your flute. I'm doing this FluteCast in a low A minor. This is a low A minor flute to allow you, if you have a mid A minor flute, to do it an octave higher with me. Hold the flute, any note you want. I tend to use the middle note since it's easy to play. And hold a steady tone. Steady breath pressure, no vibrato, no ornamentations, nothing fancy. It's a meditation. Just hold a steady pitch. As you're doing it, get deep into the sound. Run it to the end of your natural breath. You're not running out of air. But when you get near the end of your breath, relax your lips. Let the rest of your breath flow out. Make a nice smooth ending. That's the idea of that. Just listening to the sound and practicing staying in tune. I'm listening to it in my high-quality headphones. Because this is a deep listening exercise, and I really need to hear it, and I really need to hear myself in tune with the backing tracks we're going to be using. Usually I use these earbuds, which are clipped to the back of this particular shirt, and when you see me wearing this shirt, you'll know I've got a backing track going. But for this FluteCast, I'm using these high-quality closed-cell earphones so I can really hear the sound that's going on. The next part of the exercise is varying your breath pressure. Varying your breath pressure by increasing your breath pressure and decreasing your breath pressure and listening to what happens. We expect what's going to happen is as you breathe harder, as you apply more breath pressure, you're going to increase volume. You're going to get louder. And you're going to get sharper. The pitch is going to go up. And that's critical. As you breathe softer, it's going to get quieter and flatter. Okay, so here we go. Start with a steady breath pressure and then increase it and decrease it. Started in the middle, I went very loud and very soft, and then brought it back up. I started in the middle, I started maybe on pitch and went very sharp and then very flat and then brought it back up. Notice on this flute I can go a lot sharper, but I can't go all that much flatter because it uses to be in pitch. From the opening, when I was playing with the backing track, I realized there's a fairly low breath pressure to being in tune with the backing track. And all of these things are, I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing it to what sounds good to me. How do you know when you're in pitch? When it sounds round, when it sounds whole, when you're happy with it. That's all there is to it. So, if I vary my breath pressure, I did that very slowly. If I vary my breath pressure faster, I get, eventually, vibrato. Vibrato is going loud and soft very quickly, like... That's fairly fast, and I'm getting louder and softer and sharper and flatter. And that's a bit of a trick. If you're trying to be in tune with the sound and you got you're not quite sure where it is, add some vibrato, and the pitch variations will kind of cover up whether you're a little bit sharp or a little bit flat. So that's the exercise. One more time. And now we're going to bring up a backing track that is a Shruti box. This is a Shruti box. This is our Shruti box here. And it's a bellows instrument. I squeeze it in the back. It's from India. Here's another version of a Shruti box. There's a lot of kinds of Shruti boxes around. That was a smaller kind of traveling Shruti box. This is the bigger, heavier, but fuller sound. And this was the one that was used for this track, and I'm going to play it. And the game here is exactly the same. Raise breath pressure, lower breath pressure. But now we're listening to the sound of our flute against a backing track and seeing if we can bring it as close as we can to in tune. So here is the... There it is. A nice deep breath, and I'm going to use my middle note. All of these Shruti tracks have 3 notes: the bottom note, the middle note, and the top note. So I'm going to play the middle note, and it's one of the notes that the Shruti box is playing. Here we go. If you're doing these long tones and you run out of breath, just take a quick breath and come back to where you were. And so I did that twice. I went in tune, sharp, get the feel of what that tension, that lack of wholesome maybe, that can be used. You can run your flute half a tone sharp and then bring it back to in tune and have you and all your listeners go, that's what we're going for here. How do I know if my first note is going to be in tune when I play with other pitched instruments? I'll usually start out flat. I'll usually start a little soft and bring it in to where I think it's in tune. So I'll just let this play for a minute, and you can play along with it. You can try this note. All holes closed. You can try this note. Top note. The octave note. And now, why don't you try this note? We're coming down one note from the top. For me, it sounds like this. It's not a note that the Shruti is playing, but it's in the scale. It's in the chord. So, bringing it in tune is not quite as easy. It's a little bit more challenging. Okay, try this note. One from the bottom. Here's another note to try. Try 2 bottom holes open, but cover the bottom one. So we've got the second from the bottom open. That's the idea. We're now going to go on to the 2 descending scale, the 2 descending melody, and that is it's a particular chord sequence. So now we've moved on from a steady tone to a moving set of tones that work. And I'm actually going to give you a particular melody. And we're going to have Chris put the notes up over here. Chris is Chris Schweitzer. He's been editing and mixing these videos for the last several years. He's made them look a lot better than I could. He's made them sound great. So thanks, Chris. That's Chris of WILDWOOD Studios. And he's going to put the notes up over here. It's a very simple pair of melodies. There's a high melody and a low melody. And we're going to look at playing those along with this. Here we go. First note. The high melody, now the low melody. What am I doing here? I'm applying an initial note and trying as quickly as reasonable to bring it in tune where I think it's in tune. And then I'm moving to the other notes using approximately the same breath pressure. Because for most flutes, when you move to a neighboring note, it has about the same breath pressure to bring it in pitch as its earlier neighbor. So we looked at breath profile, the breath profile FluteCast, and some flutes have decreasing breath pressure as you go down the scale, some have increasing breath pressure as you go down the scale, and some have very even breath pressure as you go across the scale. Okay? Depending on the flute you have, notes that are far away may have quite a different breath pressure to bring them in tune, but mostly the notes that are close by will have a very similar breath pressure. So I'm using similar breath pressures, and occasionally I'm testing it a little bit. I'll hit a note and I'll bring it a little sharp and then bring it back into tune. Bring it a little flat and bring it back into tune. So that's kind of the way I'm doing this. I'll let this play for a little bit. I'll let this play for the outro. And you can go out to clintgoss.bandcamp.com and stream this track and 7 other tracks in your key of flute. And I'll let this play for a while during the outro. Enjoy.